Hey, there you are. Can you
Hey,
you can hear me?
yeah.
I can hear you.
Good. How's it doing with you?
Pretty good. Bryce is actually on his way over. He's gonna sit in, I guess, because he needed to drop something off for me anyway. But he
I
didn't make it
see.
here in time. I said, okay, I'm gonna be in the meeting. So
Yeah, of course. But thanks for willing to do this, Steve.
sure, why not? What the heck? All I'm doing is getting older, so I might as well do it before I'm too old. Before
Don't
I know,
worry.
before I don't know where I am.
Don't worry. It's okay. It
Hey.
happens with a lot of voice actors I got to interview with, including Richard Epcar
Oh
and
yes,
of course many others.
yes.
And I gotta be honest with you. I've been hearing all over from you ever since Hirozen Saratobi from Naruto. And ever since then, I've been trying to know about who's the voice of him. But to tell the truth, I never knew what anime was until One Punch Man appeared to me. That's when I discovered that is anime, and that's where turns out I discovered all the voice actors in it, including you, Steve.
When was that? How long ago was that?
It was 2016 when I first discovered it. It was all part of my childhood days.
Well, we've been doing that. We've been doing anime since the early to mid '80s. It
Yeah, I
goes back
know.
that far. I think the first big thing we did was Robotech,
Yeah, I know. Richard Epcar once told me that. So yeah, that's the
all
important
the way
fact.
back. That was we were all actors just looking for work, and we all one or another of us kind of found these studios that started doing what they were doing was they were like Japanese grunt films. They were like karate films, is what we were doing. They weren't even animations things. It was just these live action beat them up until you're bloody and unconscious, and then move on to the next fight. Because I remember very clearly that we had our throats would just give out after a while because it was nothing but punching and kicking and screaming and falling over and everything else. And that's how we started doing this. And then some of the studios started to get some of the anime stuff from Japan. And since we had already been working for them, this they had a built-in talent pool, so they started hiring us and seeing what we could do. So that's how most of us got started, and that was back in the mid '80s.
I see.
I think Robotech was the first big breakthrough series. Um, that was the one where everybody kind of got involved. And after that, I would think the next big thing that came along was probably Power Rangers. Um,
Oh yes, Power Rangers. I got to
close
know
after
it
that.
so well ever since I was 6 years old.
Well, that's where most people started when they were quite young with Power Rangers because it looked to me like it was made for younger people, for kids 10 and under,
Yeah.
just the way they had set up the thing. In fact, when we first were introduced to it, do you know who Chaim Saban is? Does that name sound familiar?
Isn't he one of the guys who brought you into Power Rangers?
Well, Chaim Saban owned the production company that finally got Power Rangers, brought it over from Japan. And some of us by then were actually writing and directing this stuff. And we got a call from Chaim, and he said, "I want to have a meeting." About six of us were invited. "I want to have a meeting. I want to show you this new show that we've got that's coming in." And he hauled us in there, and we sat in this conference room, and he played the video of some of these episodes. And we're all sitting there with our mouths hanging open, going, "What the heck is this?" It was so weird because it was so, strange. You know how Power Rangers was, particularly in the early ones. It was just weird. I'd never seen anything like it, and And we're all sitting there with our mouths hanging open. And in the back of the room, Chaim Saban is sitting there going, oh, look at that. Look at that. He's a
Oh my God.
he's a billionaire, and we're working for weekly wages.
I
So
see
he
that.
knew better than we did, much better than we did.
Oh, I see that. You know, if I ever make my own Power Rangers show, I'll make it more anime so that I can do the one thing that the Power Rangers should have done, revealing the backstories about why these villains are doing this, how the Rangers are formed in the first place, and why does it have all these kinds of details that can be explained through everything, only
But
if they open up to it.
I think back then it was more the action and the fighting and all of that stuff. That's what it all kind of came down to. The plot was pretty thin in most of these stories. They just wanted to get to the fight scenes, and they hired some English actors to portray the Power Rangers when they were not in their helmets. So when they took off their costumes, particularly their helmets, then we had English actors speaking. The rest of the footage was all the original Japanese fighting and action scenes. So what they did was we wrote the scripts so that we could have them record the voices for when they had the helmets on. So if they were wearing the helmets, they would record the English. When they took the helmets off, they shot new footage with actual English actors doing it. So it was pretty smart, actually. It saved him money because he could use all the action sequences without having to reshoot all that stuff. So that was one of the reasons he was interested in it.
But anyway, I've always wanted to ask you these questions, but what was your first ever character that you got to play as way before you got into so many other characters that I got to know you as for the last few years? Like, think of the 70s or 80s that you know of.
Well, in the 80s, because in the 70s, I wasn't really active in this field. I just want to look back at, because I think Robotech was really the first big show that we did. I've got a list of my credits because I can't remember them all.
I looked up
Robotech,
behind the voice actor.
Angelo Dante,
Angelo.
Angelo Dante in Robotech.
Huh.
That would have been the first big series regular character that I played.
So that, oh, I see. So Angelo Dante is your first character from the show
That was the first one that anybody would have noticed. I mean, I probably played, some smaller characters in some other episodes of other series or features, but that was the first one that actually made an impact.
Wow.
Robotech was very popular. It almost changed the whole anime field because I think it was the first really, really popular anime show in America. It kind of set the stage for everything else.
Oh, I see. Now I get the picture. Because I just need to know, just in case if I ever make a voice showcase of you, I just need to make sure I do a chronological order. I guess I should thank you for that. And thanks to you telling me your first ever character, now I know what to do about it.
One of the very first. It was fun. It was interesting. We had never done that stuff before. For most of us that were doing it, it was brand new. We had to learn how to match mouths because whether it's animation or live action, you've got mouth movements. And when the character starts talking, that's when you got to start. And when he's done, you got to stop. So we had to learn how to do that.
I see.
I ended up being one of the writers and directors in addition to doing voice work. And there's an actual art to it. You wouldn't know it from seeing some of the stuff that has gone out on the air, but there is an art to it if you do it carefully. I always tell people this, and it drives them crazy later because they never thought about it. In the English language, there's only 3 letters in the English alphabet where your lips touch when you say the letter. I'll let you think about it for a second.
Yeah,
Drives everybody crazy.
it
Yeah,
always
okay,
happens.
I'll just tell them to you. The first one is B, the next one is M, and the last one is P. So anytime you've got dialogue, or if you're looking at, even if it's Japanese, doesn't matter what language it is, really, because all humans speak the same basic things. They talk, lips touch, talk, lips touch, lips touch. And so when you're looking at something to put in English, they might be speaking Japanese, they might be speaking Russian, they might be speaking who knows what. But you can turn off the sound. And if you have a translation of what they're saying, then what you do is you try and adapt the dialogue to fit in their mouths. And if you're really good at it, if you're really sharp at it, you can make them talk. You can make them look like they're talking English, even though they're speaking Italian or French or who knows what. But it's a really hard thing, and I only know a few people that actually can do this properly. So most of the time, you make a low pass at it. You might get it right, you might not, but in some cases, the audience doesn't really care. They want to hear the basic dialogue. They want to get to the action scenes. They want to see all the fighting and the special effects and all of that. So
Interesting choice of words you made there, my good friend. But anyway, in the show Naruto, what was your favorite part about playing the character Hirozen Saratobi?
well, I enjoyed the entire series. I liked the almost everything about it. It was the thing about, I call him the third Hokage because that's his title, even though it's Hiruzen Saratobi. He was sort of a mentor to Naruto, a protector of him as he progressed, as he developed into the character that he became. So the thing I enjoyed about it, I was the wise man. I was Mr. Know-it-all. I had all the answers. But I also was a warrior. And I actually wasn't, I was surprised when that first started to happen because I thought he was sort of like this sage, this all wise character that Naruto would go to. But in spite of the fact that he looked old, and I certainly played him sounding old, he was a big warrior. He fought, he fought like he was a 20-year-old. So it was an interesting character to play.
Yeah, because all I know is that the character became a war. Your character actually showed up to be a warrior because of one thing, because of him fighting against Steve Bloom himself, Orochimaru. You were fighting against Steve Bloom when you were like this. What have you done, Orochimaru? And he's like, well, it seems you managed to know what the Leaf Village will be like.
I almost never fight. I almost never fight with Steve Bloom. Here's Hirozen as a warrior. So I keep some pictures that I take with me to conventions and toy store signings and stuff like that. But here's Hirozen as just his normal self, the way we normally see him. I enjoy the fact that he has levels, that he's not just one kind of character, one dimensional.
So that's a very good thing to hear from you, which leads me to because you mentioned something earlier about being the know-it-all thing. I got one know-it-all character that you might know it you played as, but tell me, what was the biggest thing when playing Sunsui Kiraku in Bleach?
Sui is an interesting character. We are actually doing a game right now. There's a new Bleach game being recorded, and he's very prominent in it. And I've just started recording him. I've only done a couple of hours, and I think he's got maybe 10 hours worth of work. So that's quite a lot of stuff, a lot of dialogue, a lot of action things and all. The thing about doing a game is you don't have a picture to work from. It's like doing original animation. You go in and you record the lines, and they animate around your tracks. So it's very different than what we normally do, where we have the picture already, and then we're laying the voice in to match the existing picture. So it's fun, it's different. I enjoy them.
I see. Because I've been seeing Bleach currently, and I've got to say, your character is actually quite interesting to see from. Because for Thousand Year Blood War, which I'm currently watching, there is one thing I wanted to see from you, and you know what's that? There's one thing, a quote I've always wanted you to say. And you know what's that? It's this. I am the captain of the 13 Court Guard squads. My name is Sunsui Kiraku.
I am the captain of the 13 court guard squads, and my name is Shunsui Kiraku.
That will be something you will say to Chris J. Alex, because, and there's one expectation that when you say the word Bankai, you know what tone of voice I wanted you to sound like? To sound like this. Well, Sensuke Take is not here. I guess I'm left with no choice. Bankai. Katun Kutetsu. Fushikakamoi Senju. Because that will be so epic for you to make it sound more dramatic, to make your character better and improved. So I can help you to make it look improved. Just like I helped out Richard Epcar and many others, which they take my advice as a very good way to help them be better at everything. Because, hey, I'm doing this to help everybody, This is my job.
It's interesting. I've been doing this for over 35 years. There are actors who I play against who I've never met in person. I've never met Chris J. Alex. I have never met him in person.
Well, that's
Isn't
fine.
that strange? Isn't that strange?
Well, that's
because what happens is when we record this stuff, they usually bring us in one at a time. So you're only recording your lines with your character. And if they have the other characters already recorded, they'll play them in your headset so that you can work off of them. But many times you might be one of the early actors that goes in and you don't have anybody to work off of. The only thing you'll hear is the Japanese track, and you have to work, play your English version against that. So, I mean, you've got a script, so you'll see what the line is that the person's going to eventually record, but you don't have it when you're in there many times. And I've never met Chris. I know who he is. I've never met him. One of the reasons that I've actually met a lot of the actors in this field is because I direct, or I was directing. I haven't lately, but I used to direct a lot of these shows, and the actors would come in and I'd get to meet them and interact with them. Some of them became very good friends of mine. Richard Epcar is a very good friend of mine. Michael Storage is a good friend of mine. There's a bunch of them that I know quite well. But it's true that it's a different kind of acting than on-camera acting, and even acting with a group of people. You're acting alone a lot of times. It's just you in the studio with the microphone.
I see your fair point. I'm just letting you know that Chris, as you I show you him. He's actually from the show that you were in, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, as AC/DC, and he also voices in One Punch Man as Boros, and did in Hunter x Hunter, and pretty much did in all other anime. And that's why I came to thought that Ryan Johnston, which you know him, right? The voice cast director, him bringing Chris J. Alex into Bleach will make it even better so that he can have an opportunity to be part of it. Also because Max Middleman and others even agree to the idea too. That's why I'll do everything I can to bring not only him, but everybody else as well. That's why I need all the voice actor support, which I eventually gained by simply being honest to them, making them understand what I'm going through. Because to tell the truth, I have autism, and that I've been working so hard to just be a voice actor and writer like the others since I've been practicing for years.
Good for you. Good for you. Stick with it. It's good to have a goal like that. That's terrific.
Yeah, I'm glad I told you that. But
Very impressed. Very impressed that you are committed to this. That's great. You know.
I'm so honored you say that, and that's why you're a very good person. But anywho, how does it feel about playing Yoshiro Kira in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
You know, there's been so many shows over the years. I have to tell you the truth. I don't remember the character, and that's the fact. I've got a resume that I brought down with me before I did this interview. It's 8 pages, single spaced, and not everything is on it. So we're talking about over 300 projects, maybe more. I've probably worked on over 400 to 500 projects over the years. That's a lot of projects and a lot of characters. And the truth is, I don't remember them all. And as I get older, I remember less and less. But some of them stand out. Hiruzen, of course, stands out. Shunsui stands out. Shenron, the dragon in Dragon Ball Z, very significant character that I played years ago. And then there's a bunch of smaller characters that, I played a character named Carlos in Cowboy Bebop. And I know that that's a very popular show right now. Some of my friends who are around played much bigger characters. Bo Billingsley played Jet Black, I think is the name of the character. He goes out to conventions all the time just because of that character, that main character that he played. He's played others, but that's the one that everybody wants to hear him do, and they want to see him and meet him. Some people have done hundreds of characters. Some people have done maybe 30 characters, but maybe they're characters that really caught the imagination of the audience. And so that's the ones that they're most popular for. People want to see them because of that particular character. It's interesting.
I see.
It's show business. We're in show business.
I see. When I make my voice showcase of you, I'll eventually show it to everybody on Facebook and, mention you in it as a way to, show everybody, even you, your voices, as a way to get you to jog your memory. You'll be like, oh, I remember now. It happens once when I helped out with Keith Sarabiha in his voice acting showcase I made for him, which he eventually said, thank you, Sebastian. And I was like, anytime, Keith. Just say, it's what I do best, making a lot of YouTube videos as a way to help everybody out, because that's my job.
The people you've probably interviewed are people that I've worked with over the years who've done an awful lot of voices. Richard Epcar is one of them. He's done a ton of voices.
Yeah.
I don't know who all you've interviewed. Kyle Hebert, yeah, he's done a bunch of voices. I haven't seen Kyle in person in several years. That's the way this business is, You work with people and they become friends, and then the show's over and everybody goes their separate ways, and unless you work with them on another show, you don't see them for a while.
Well, why don't you go meet him then? You know what's good for you. If you wanted to meet this person again, I suggest you do what's right for you. I
see him on Facebook
all the time.
Yeah, I see him on Facebook. I'll probably contact him through Facebook. Some guys, they make it their business to get together and stay in touch. I try and do that too, but I'm not as good at it as some people. Some people are very good at staying in touch with everyone.
Well, that's my job, helping everybody out, to make sure they just do what's right. And yeah, that's basically it. But anywho, back to my questions. But what was your favorite part about being in the anime show Sailor Moon as the Wise Man?
Wiseman.
I am the Wise Man. I will introduce to you to my disciple. Behold, this is Black Lady, and she shall be the one to serve under you, my prince. Do you
be doing.
remember
You should
that?
be doing these parts. You should be doing these parts.
I know, I'm just trying to show you a little jogging memory as a way for you to remember, because I've seen the clips of you as the wise man, and you turn out to be a quite spectacular when it comes to being a villain, you know. However, it requires a lot of great motivation of knowing what the villain is really up to. And that's exactly why I came to respect your character, Wiseman, because of him being a trickster, you know.
It's actually more interesting to play the villains, I think, than to play the heroes. The heroes, they're all good guys, so they're always going to do the right thing. But the villains, they get to be nasty, and they get to come up with terrible things that they're doing to everybody else. I think that's more fun than being the hero. I don't know. How do you feel?
I see that. But anywho, what's the most awesome thing when playing King Barzard in Seven Deadly Sins, which this show is where Chris Carson casted you into it?
Carson cast us in that? You're sure now? It's been a long time, so you could be right. I might not really remember properly.
Well,
That
that's why
name,
I'm giving you a help, you know?
yeah.
It's on Netflix, you know?
Strange. That name doesn't sound familiar to me, but as I say, there's been an awful lot of shows over an awful lot of years, so I might have forgotten. But I know that Kane is a very prominent figure in that series, and I actually, when I was first meeting with the people that are representing me to go out on auditions, to conventions and bookstores and all that, one of the characters that they suggested that I get a picture of was Kane Bazard, and that I was trying to remember exactly what the voice was that I used for that character, because that one was a ways back. It's been a long time since I've actually played him. Um, but that was, I guess, that was one of the ones that the fans really enjoyed. You know, you did. You like that character.
Yep, I sure do,
What
actually.
was it about that character that you liked so much?
Well, he's a very wise man who just helps out the main characters, like Bryce Peppenbrook's character out with dealing with a lot of things, you know, as a way to show the proper respect for what it is to lead to a more destined path to goodness and the will to the future.
Did you know that Bryce's father used to do this work quite a bit? Were
Yeah,
you aware
I
of
do
Bryce's
know.
father, Bob
I
Peppenbrook?
Yeah, I feel sorry about his loss a few years ago. I truly am.
He was a nice guy, and he would bring Bryce around to watch some of these sessions that he was doing, so that he'd know what kind of work he was doing. And Bryce was very excited about being there. And then sometimes we needed younger voices, and somebody said, "Well, what about Bryce? You know, he's got a really young voice. Let's try him out." And so we did. He started out doing the smaller roles. And then before you know it, he was doing lead roles in a bunch of different series. And now he's one of the most popular voice guys that does this work. I haven't actually seen Bryce in person in years. It's been years. I'm thinking I might run into him at a convention or something sometime. But he's fun. He really loves this work.
I see that. You know, well, Steve, it's such an honor to finally meet you at last, and I just hope everything turns out for you okay. And oh, and two more things before you go. One, if you ever see Ryan Johnston again, which you know because Bleach Thousand Year Blood War is coming back in July. So if you ever see Ryan Johnston again, would you tell him about what I told you about getting him into it as a way to make the casting go better, as a way to help every single English dub fans to finally see what it's like? Because you know it's for the sake of helping them out and making the cast look better so that he can finally interact with you, you know? Because I was expecting that to see that for a long time. So that's the honest truth I wanted to tell you. Oh, and will you do that for me?
Sure. What's the
I
other
was
thing?
hoping you might say that. Oh, and one more thing about your birthday on Facebook. Is is your birthday on March or in December? Huh?
March. That December thing was wrong.
Huh.
That I don't know who
I
put that on
see.
there,
It
and I
was
haven't.
behind the voice actors and the wiki at once. Wicked fandom and all the behind the voice actors did that.
I'm gonna
Now
have
I
to contact somebody because that was wrong information. I don't know where they got that date or any of that.
maybe they miscalculated, but now I know. Thank you for that.
I'm glad that you are such a big fan of this work. You know that I meet people here and there who are big fans. I don't always until I started doing the toy stores and the conventions. I rarely met any of the fans of this work, but I know that there's hundreds and thousands of them, maybe millions of them, who've followed these series and are very wrapped up in it. They love the characters, and you know, we appreciate it. Like I told you, we go into a studio usually one at a time, all alone, and when we're done, we're out of the studio, and we don't know anything else that happens until there's some reaction from the fans as to whether they like the show or not, or whether they like our particular character or not. So this has been a really important thing for me and for other people who do this to actually go out and meet people who enjoy this work and are big fans of it, because we don't know, you know, generally speaking, we have no idea until we actually meet people that love it, you know. So it's very gratifying for us to actually meet the fans and hear from them.
I was hoping you might say that. Because you know, if I ever become a voice actor and writer, I'd be gladly to bring you into my project one day, whenever I have the chance to do so, as a way for me to interact with you in voice acting and getting to know you well, as a very kind-hearted person with a very big heart, just like myself. But anyway,
Thank you so much
well,
for interviewing.
my pleasure. And I hope to see you around through social media like Instagram and of course Instagram and Facebook. And I hope you have a very wonderful day, my good friend Steve. And tell your agent Bryce I said hello.
Okay, I will. Okay, thank you very much.
You
Nice to
too.
meet you, Sebastian.
Nice to meet you too. Sunsui Kiraku.
Bye bye now.
Bye bye.